Oh boy. Totally shot. I've been making some I've been connecting some really interesting dots lately. First of all, shout out to the whole Poker Face Society. Shout out to Angelo. He's not always on the live, but he does check in on the replay. Shout out to the replay gang, the entire replay gang. Sorry if it made it seem like I was coming at you, Angelo. I wasn't coming at you. I know you're saying that you're saying that the Pentagon gets audited technically. I know what you're saying, but you would then have to understand the reality of them actually not being audited, right? So if we call it auditing, but the auditor comes to the same exact conclusion 14 years in a row, right? Um, information non conclusive, which is basically saying there's not enough information there. Why? Because they have not given the auditor what they needed, right? So that is that a real audit? That's not even a real audit. You know what I'm saying? I do want to get into a conversation today, but I'm not sure if YouTube will allow me, so I'm just gonna get up here and do my thing and see how they kind of treat it. Also, I'm an hour late. You know, YouTube tells me that I should have been here about 2 hours ago, but I had things going on in real life, so I couldn't get here. Um, I want to talk to the audience tonight. I would love for you guys to tell me. Man, I've been coming up with some interesting things. We got 14 people in the building. Hit the like button on your way in because I'm about to talk about some things. All right, so let's start here. The other night, I was wrong. I have to correct something. I kept on saying something that was incorrect. I kept on telling you guys that Fritz Tyson was the one who gave Hitler the book Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And that's incorrect. It wasn't Fritz. It was Alfred Rosenberg. Alfred Rosenberg was his man. Was Hitler's man. Alfred Rosenberg was like the intellectual for Germany at that time, right? Even though there are reports that he was Ashkenazi Jew, we'll get into all of that. Why he might have been Steven says, go to sleep, old man. I am tired, but I got work to do. This is not about me going to... So you don't have to be here, though, Steven. When you come over here telling me to go to sleep, you get out of here. I'm looking for a certain tribe of people. If you're not the tribe of people, feel free not to be here. I don't... YouTube doesn't pay my bills. I'm here to have a conversation with my tribe. But there's, millions of people on this earth. So if you're part of the tribe and you want to have the conversation about some things, then you stick around. If not, you can go. I don't need you here. I don't need anybody here. Now, I've been on a crazy journey since watching Tucker Carlson and Richard Werner. Richard Werner definitely broke down the financial system quite eloquently and simply, right? So that the average person can understand. Because most of us was just calling it Babylonian magic. But he actually confirmed that this is what's going down, Jack. If you got a bank, you could kind of like just create money. But first you would have to need a bank, and you need a chartered bank. Fine. So when I say I've been on a mission, that conversation brought me to the banks behind World War II, who was financing both sides. It's been a roller coaster ride, because every time I stop to research something, it keeps bringing me somewhere else. But check out where it brought me, and I'm just watch this. This is crazy. Now, I told you Richard Werner is why I started even looking into this, right? Then I get to looking into it. Obviously, I'm going to study Hitler a little bit. And what made, why Hitler was on this mission to eradicate the Jews. Like, why are you were tripping, bro. I don't know if anybody ever stopped to ask why. Do you guys think that it was just like because they're named Jews, or he didn't like the color of their skin, or he didn't like the fact that they use matzo balls? I don't know if you ever thought about the fact of why this guy was tripping. Hit the like button while you're here, please, so more people know I'm here having this conversation, because the conversation is going to get crazy. It's going to get crazy in a second, so please, I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking you to hit the like button. That's it. So me wanting to understand, like, why was you even tripping any old way? And that question is important, because here we are in 2025 with more people every day having skepticism for the Zionists. But we know that most Zionists, the immediate Zionists, are affiliated with the Jews, if not the Jews themselves, right? But it's not every last Jew on this earth. So you can't be like, we're going to say the Jews regardless. That's what we're going to say, the Jews. But in reality, is it the poor Jews? Is it the Jews that's over? No. It's a certain class of people, which over here we have already categorized and said, we got a saying over here that we get out the Bible, and we say there are those who say they are Jews and they're not, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Whatever that means, we know they don't have a good heart. For whatever that means, we know they don't have a good heart. But we was already warned in that Bible. They left it in there for whatever reason. So we take it for granted. We know they've been kicked out of a bunch of countries over the centuries. A whole lot. 109 to be exact. Some they've been kicked out of more than once. France 3 times, England a couple of times. Even the United States got tired of their nonsense during the Civil War, because they were selling ammunition to both sides. But I digress. I wanted to understand Hitler's, like, what made you, because here we are 2025, and people, first people had sympathy for them because of the Holocaust. And it was like, oh man, that's crazy. Ovens, oh, God forbid. Ovens, right? And they taught it to us in school, and everybody had all this sympathy. And then as soon as you give these jokers their own goddamn piece of land, they get crazy. Shit get crazy, right? They forget all about the Holocaust. They are out here big stepping. Holocaust what? Right? They out here committing their own goddamn Holocaust on another country who technically did not want to share the land with them, but, they were kind of bribed by Britain and the United States, saying, "Yo, we're gonna throw you a little something. We're gonna give you a little something, just make it peaceful. They're gonna be chill. They're gonna be chill." Long story short, they wasn't chill at all. They wasn't fucking chill. They, as soon as they got in there, they got started fucking trying to take more land, more land. Here we are, 2025. It's a whole fucking shit show. You know, it's just total mayhem. The people that this, we decided, oh, give them a state of their own, even though we know they was fucking lying and they was not related to anybody from Judea or Judah or that fucking area, right? Everybody knew they was fucking putting on. But yeah, just give them a leg, give them a little bit. Go ahead, try something. Yeah, this is what happens when you try something, give them a little bit. They fucking take a mile, and now it's just mayhem. He's out here with big fucking ears, starting wars everywhere, right? Well, that is these people's fault, but that's not even what I want to talk about. As I'm studying Hitler, please hit the like button while you're here, because I didn't get started yet, but I will get started. As I'm studying Hitler, I'm discovering people like Fritz Tyson and, people like the Harriman and Brown brothers, and discovering that they're creating banks and correspondence banks to help out with the funding for the Nazis, and which Americans are involved, the Bushes. But that's not the big to-do. That's not the big to-do. Hit the fucking like button. Why do I gotta repeat this? Listen, check this out. If I'm saying hit the like button, you're like, yo, the other person will hit it. How about you fucking hit it? God damn. This would make me want to cut off the fucking show, because fucking people, you just ask them to hit the like button, they swear to God, they act like they doing you a big old fucking favor. Fucking favor you doing me? I want to talk about something other than this stupid shit you've been listening to all day, and I'm going to get there. But you won't even help me do that, but you're going to sit and watch the show. Again, you could get the fuck out of here. Hit the like button. So, I'm studying these cats, right? And the other night, well, actually, yesterday or the day before, I said, oh, you fucked up. You was telling the people that Fritz was gave Hitler the book. It wasn't Fritz at all. It was Alfred Rosenberg. Everybody look that up or write that down. I got some people that come over and they take notes. Write down Alfred Rosenberg. Now, Alfred, like I said, he was an intellectual. But Alfred had, he was talking some other shit, bro. There's a book called The Myth of the 20th Century. Write that down. The myth of the books I'm giving you, you can actually get on the Internet Archive. You can actually get these books on the Internet Archive. Right? Now, bust this. If you can't read the whole book, they got something called, on the Internet Archive, it's called The Myth. It's the audio version of The Myth of the 20th Century. But it's just called The Myth. And then you have to download the MP3, right? But here's my point. This shit blew my mind. It blew my mind. And it helped me to understand something. We all heard the Nazis say they're the master race. Okay, Andy, what's good, bro? We got Armand from Iran in the house. I'm glad you're in the house. We got some Aryans in the house, right? And I'm talking about Jews. And we're going to talk about some other star systems in a second. We're talking about Nazis, Jews, da 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 da. Now, the Germans was out there. The Germans been out there in a. When I say out there, their conversations were advanced. I don't know why they was this advanced, way more than the American. But even if we look at their scientists, and I'm going to need everyone's help today because my brain is full of information and I may say some things wrong and I need you to correct me if I say something misspeak. But even if we look at Operation Paperclip, where we actually took we call them Nazi scientists, and we brought them to America and we gave them a new life. Sidebar: every time we do something that's hypocritical, that's to give us a sign that this is a big play. It's a big play. The entire thing is a big play. And we do hypocritical things in this country all the fucking time. Right? Unsidebar. So we go over to Germany, get involved in this war, and we come back with fucking scientists that have dramatically changed the fabric and the direction of the United States. But never mind all that. We know some of the things that we know the Nazi for is one, the swastika, what we call the swastika, which is actually a cross, which is actually an ancient symbol that has been tied to actual positive things. Now, some say Hitler has reversed the symbol to reverse engineer the energy. Hold on, before we get there, I just want to talk about what we know the Nazis for. Because if there's one guy on this planet that they don't ever really want you to look at and give any accolades to, it will be Hitler. Because if you was ever to give him any accolades, you would immediately be deemed an anti-Semite, which that word is actual bullshit. It's a made-up fucking word, only coined in the 19th century, by the way. It's a made-up fucking word. It's a compound word that doesn't mean shit together. But when you take them apart, none of that, I don't even know how you put these two things together. Anti, opposed of, Shemitic, has to do with languages. You put these two motherfuckers together, and all of a sudden you hate somebody called the Jew. What the fuck are we talking about? Who signed off on this bullshit? And you guys go for this? I digress. We know the Nazis for swastikas. And what else do we know them for? We know them for being racist. That's the conversation I wanted to get to tonight. Hit the fucking like button for me. And now let's have some fun. See, I told you to hit the like button. You didn't want to listen, right? If you're new here, my conversations always start out light. They don't start fast. If I tell you to hit the like button, I'm telling you for a reason. I'm about to go down a fucking rabbit hole, right? And it'll be more fun if more people are in here, because you can bounce your wacky ass or ideas off of shit in the comment section. Hit the like button. If you're tired of being a tool for the establishment, hit the fucking like button. If you would prefer to teach your kids to think outside of the box, hit the fucking like button. I'm telling you, I'm about to go down a rabbit hole right now. I have to scheme on how I'm going to do a show so I can get people in here. If I don't put the right words in the description and in the title, they say no, nobody's going to see your show, you're shadow banned. But if they think I'm going to talk bullshit and push their agenda like I'm some type of Jesuit initiate, then they say, yeah, give him some shine. He's about to add on to the chaos. Okay, if that's what you think. I'll let you think what you want to think. Hit the like button. Do subscribe to the channel. Let's go. These people said they was the master race, and everybody got offended. They said the original man was good, player. We got Michael Wilbur in the building. Mike, you know we about to go in hours. Mike, Mike. It's showtime, baby. I'm tired too. I definitely want to lay down, but it's showtime. It's showtime. These people said they was the master race and everybody got upset. It's funny when your country could tell you what somebody else is saying, because guess what? First of all, you don't speak that language. Second of all, you don't get their local news, or you really don't know what the fuck is going on. You getting clips of a guy speaking in German and clips that they want to show, and when he's upset, right? And then you just see him upset, and then they're gonna subtitle that shit and make it seem like he's totally fucking crazy. They'll take bits of their speech, which may be true. Maybe they did say they was the master race. And maybe they really do feel like they the master race. Now the question is, here's the fucking question. It's crazy how they play us against each other. First of all, race class system is a new thing also. Just like that fucking bullshit ass word anti-Semitic, race class system is also a new class of categorization. So what did the anthropologists use before the race class system of labeling somebody by their fucking skin? Do you honestly think that's what we've been doing out here the whole time? Short answer, no. That's not what we was doing. We was not just labeling people strictly off their fucking skin color. So as I'm listening to this guy, Alfred Rosenberg, I'm actually starting to understand this guy is not talking about skin color at all when he says race. He's the master race. So what the fuck is he talking about? If he's not talking about skin color, is he talking about some type of other category that the anthropologists had? Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid. What is he talking about? But he keeps mentioning not only the Aryan, but listen, he keeps mentioning the Nordic. He keeps mentioning these Nordics. When you guys got to go get the book, I already told you in the beginning, if you're just coming in and you late, next time don't be fucking late. That's first of all. Zero of all, hit the fucking like button. And third, shut the fuck up and take notes. Now, if you're late, I was talking about a guy named Alfred Rosenberg. You could go get his book on the Internet Archive, The Myth of the 20th Century. Now, as I'm combing through the book and I'm listening to the book, this Nordic word is really triggering me. And I'm listening to the book and I start to discover this now. He's not talking about any fucking race in the sense of color like the new way we're thinking about it. He's talking about something ancient. When he says we're the master race, I said he's talking about a race class of people, a human race. He's talking about the human. Okay. Humanoid race. He's talking about gods and different beings. See, I can only talk to a few right now that will understand. Most of you guys won't understand. Because you're in a box already. But you can stay and you can listen. But I don't know how well you're going to interpret. Your cognition is going to interpret. So I'm going to speak to the rest and you can listen. When he started talking about the Nordics, he also started talking about the Atlanteans. This is how I knew he was not talking about like some race class system that had to do with color and that he's better than black people because he's... No. Their interest in eugenics, their interest was trying to dilute the rest of the races out, had to do everything with them wanting to go back to the original origin of the who. Say it! Oh, God damn you, idiot! Hold on. Libations. Well, let me ask you, because I'm going to ask you anyway. Yeah, let's do it like that. Who are the Nordics and the Atlanteans tied to? There's another group. Who could give it to me? Now, while you think about that, because I'm going to tell you in a second, let me read these comments. Hit the like button while you're there. It's 15 people in there. It's only 5 likes. Life is like an onion. Jesus. It has many layers. You never lied about that. We will never get to the center, bro. The shit I just stumbled upon, I said that shit to myself today. I said, all of this time, and I never seen it. It was right in front of my face. Since the center is always moving away from us. The center, my whole center moved yesterday. Right? And this is why they keep whitewashing history. Because, look. This is what happened. This is why they keep whitewashing history. They didn't want that. They didn't want nobody to understand what Hitler and them was talking about. Because if you understand what was talking about and then you started to get involved in that conversation and did some research for yourself, then you'd be like, God damn, it would have opened up Pandora's box. So, what he was really getting at was he mentioned the Nordic, he mentioned the Atlanteans. What he was really getting at was he honestly believed that the Lyran and the Pleiadians, that's where his group of people derived from, and they were the original people on this planet. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings. I'm not here to discredit him. Like, I have no dog in that fight. Not in this conversation. Not in this conversation. He was talking about a race of humanoid peoples. But I realized, oh shit. Everything I've been saying thus far about there being other species on this planet, they know goddamn well there's other species on this planet. They know this. They know the history. But they don't want everyone to focus on that. Because if you focus on that, then that kind of crushes religion. It really does. So it would be best to make anyone who thinks and even believes another story outside of the story that they put before our face, make them shit feel crazy. That's one story that the Lyran and the Pleiadian was put here on this planet first. These blonde-haired, blue-eyed people do fit the description of a Lyran and a Pleiadian. However, the problem is there's different versions of the story. If we was to break it down into groups, I believe, I'm not telling you what's right, I'm telling you what I believe. I believe that the reptilian group was here on this planet first, which is why they want it back. I also believe that after the many galactic battles, pause right there. You know what's crazy? Mostly all of our books and our history talk about intergalactic battles and crazy battles in the sky. Looking at the Mahabharata, and the stories within that epic tale, well, all of our ancient stories talk about flying. They talk about flying wars and flying vehicles, right? When I first read the Emerald Tablets, my mind was blown. I just put it down like, oh shit, what the fuck? Because they was talking about flying vehicles back then. These are ancient relics, ancient stories that's talking about nuclear weapons and lasers. And I say that because there's going to be someone on here tonight that swears to God that I'm just out to lunch, not considering you just may not know nothing, right? So, of course, I'm going to sound out to lunch. Of course, I'm going to sound crazy to someone who doesn't really have never heard information like this, which means you may be out of your realm to talk, right? Sometimes you just need to sit, be quiet, don't say nothing, listen. And then I will always I will tell you to write things down. Go look things up yourself. I'm never going to get up here and freestyle like I came up with this shit. I didn't come up with none of this shit. This is what happened. This is what's going on right now. These books are still around. The Bible is still here. These Dravidian Sanskrits are still. Nothing's stopping you. If you want to watch fucking cat memes all day, that's your business. But don't come over to my live dicking off and then interrupt the live because you don't know shit about shit. Stop liking pictures of big butt women jerking around all day and get some knowledge in your head, bro. I don't know what the fuck to say. Right? Anyway, I've been on a mission, and I'm going to do a full video with PowerPoints and all that other stuff. I took a few notes because I wanted to start to have this conversation. So, if we was to connect most of the Caucasian population to their starseed, we would get the Scandinavians, for starters, connected to the Lyran and the Pleiadian. The Roman connected to the Lyran and the Pleiadian. The Greek connected to the Lyran and the Pleiadian. Well, those are only two star constellations, two star systems. What else we got? Well, we got the Egyptian, we got the Ethiopian. Are they connected to the Lyran and Pleiadian? Not so much. Not so much. Some of your darker races, excluding the Dravidian, are connected to the Anunnaki. The Syrian. The Maldekian. Do remember, Maldek was destroyed. So that asteroid belt that we see floating around out there, the first one, some say that's, I don't know. I can't, you understand? I'm only telling you what I believe. You would look these things up. Anything that sounds foreign to your ears right now, you would take a pen, you would write it down, and this would start your journey. Please don't repeat what I say in a barbershop. There's no fun in that. Telling people what you heard. Yo, I heard. Fuck what you heard. What did you go look up? You didn't even attempt to look the shit up. You just went straight to the salon, straight to the barbershop and told them what you heard. You's about a... You was a Yo, Mike Wilbur. Yo, check this out. It gets me to thinking, how much do we actually know about this planet, bro? How much could we know? These motherfuckers keep on changing the history, right? We know they changed the history because there's maps out there with all type of other words on the continents. Do they teach our kids? Do they teach us about it? Right? If they didn't teach us about it, then how the fuck we gonna teach our kids about it? We stumbled across this because somebody broke some type of code of trust, put the shit out there and was like, and that's how we stumbled across some of these continents with different names. However, I want us to critically think right now. Those maps have to be somewhere. That means there are a group of people that know goddamn well these were not the names of these continents. And if they know that, then they know more. But why isn't this freely taught? And then I can tell you why it's not freely taught. It's not freely taught because of something that Rockefeller said. Rockefeller said he didn't want a nation of thinkers, he wanted a nation of workers. Well, that type of logic and that type of attitude comes from somewhere. That type of pious status where, listen, you only here to work for me, comes from somewhere. In this particular case, it may have come from a guy named Reverend T. Gates. Hold on. For the people that's really here to have a real hold on. Don't nobody go nowhere. Don't nobody go nowhere. All right. Reverend T. Gates. Write it down. Write the name down. Second of all, go get this book right here. Now, I have the first chapter on Audible. Rockefeller Medicine Men. All right? Rockefeller Medicine Men. The first chapter is on Audible. If you have not gotten, many of you getting the books. I know you getting the book because I'm getting the checks. Hello. So many of you are getting the books. I know you getting the books because I'm getting the checks. And next, I will be putting this here, chapter 2 up. Now, in this book, it talks about a Reverend Gates, T. Gates, who they always say is not related to Bill Gates, but for some reason, I think David Icke has blown the lid off of that, and I think he is related to Bill Gates, but I'm still reading David Icke's book and waiting for him to drop that. So I say drop that, drop the actual resources of that point to that, because the internet, Google has made it hard to determine if this Reverend T. Gates is actually his great grandfather or somebody. Now, I already told you what Rockefeller said. Rockefeller was the first one to create the General Education Board, which was the precursor to the Board of Education, right? This book is amazing. This book has taught me so much, and I'm about to read something to you in a second. But it taught me a lot. Now, who was his mentor? An actual reverend, who also believed that, hold on. Let me see if I can do something. I'll try real quick. I make no promises. Let me see if I can get a quote that he said. I make no promises. Just Hold on right there. Don't nobody go nowhere. Nobody move. Nobody get hurt. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens. I don't know what's gonna happen. All right, I can't find it by looking it up right now. So I'm going to refrain from what I was about to say right now. So let's just take the mindset of because he said something and I wanted to read what he said verbatim, but I can't find it and I don't want to waste you guys' time. However, if you guys got time for me to read a couple of paragraphs from this here, it says Scientific Medicine 1, Ideology Professional Uplift. This is after the whole wholesale philanthropy chapter, which you can get the audio version of this chapter on audible.com. And you will see how Reverend T. Gates coached Rockefeller to give away his money to control people through philanthropy. Told him you got to give your money away. All right. Now I want to read this one. You guys got time. You're not doing shit. It's Friday. You guys are grown. You're not going nowhere. You might as well just sit here and read a little something with your boy. You understand? You ain't doing shit. Throughout the 19th century, the medical profession was almost constantly frustrated in its to gain public confidence and raise professional incomes and status, despite varied attempts to alter competitive market economy for medical services. The dominant portion of the profession continued to be plagued by competition with its own ranks from those beyond the pale of orthodoxy. In this chapter, we will see how the rise of science in the latter part of the century provided the solution that medical reformers had previously sought in vain. Physicians and biological researchers consciously applied the methods and the principles of scientific research to problems of disease. Though even in the 1860s, their work had little support and played very minor role within medical profession. At mid-century, however, leading reformers among the medical elite practitioners took up scientific medicine as the ideology of professional reform and uplift. Medical science gradually provided practitioners with a somewhat more effective medical practice, enabling them to increase their credibility with the public and reduce economic competition within the profession. Scientific medicine. Scientific medicine was adopted as the unifying theory that enabled the dominant profession to develop strong political organization and to win political and financial support from wealthy people in society. Scientific medicine, just in case you did not hear that. Perhaps most fundamental, the association of medicine with science won support from the new technical, professional, and managerial groups associated with the growth of corporate capitalism. American medicine in the 1800s. Hit the like button, please. In 1800, nearly all American physicians received their training as apprentices at the side of a practicing physician, assisting with sample techniques and mixing medications. In the 18th century, medical lectures had been widely available in this country, so young men from the upper class went abroad for their medical education, especially to Scotland. The handful of Edinburgh-trained physicians in America developed very successful practices, with the wealthiest city dwellers for their clients and lucrative consulting practices besides. By 1800, only about 100 American physicians had attended medical courses at Edinburgh. That's crazy. And only 3 American medical programs at Pennsylvania, Harvard, and Dartmouth were offering lectures to supplement the apprenticeship. The graduates of these institutions formed a medical elite. Listen. The graduates of these institutions, which institutions? Pennsylvania University, Harvard, and Dartmouth. The graduates of these institutions formed a medical elite, and together with the rank and file apprentice trained physicians, they formed the self-styled regular profession. But most Americans were probably not getting their medical care from regular physicians, whereas most of the populace lived in the countryside or small towns. Most apprentice-trained doctors and the few medical school doctors lived in the large towns and cities. In Virginia, by 1800, the 11 largest towns had only 3% of the state population, yet 25% of all physicians known to have practiced in Virginia during the 18th century lived in those 11 towns. Most Americans, when they were sick, consulted herbal practitioners. Most Americans, when they were sick, consulted herbal practitioners. These empirical healers had no formal training, but apprenticed mainly with their other herbalists. Some of the herbalists were midwives, and others were men and women who had experimented with herbs and were known for their abilities to heal the sick. Lay healers were distributed throughout the countryside. They seldom relied on healing for their entire support. Yeah. I'm only talking to a few today. Only a few that can listen and hear what's going on, right? Only a few that can listen. That's why I'm stopping. Only a few will get what I'm saying, and I'm not even saying it. The book is saying it. So the book has told me so far that before scientific medicine came in, and I repeated it 4 times, by the way, 3 times in a row, and then 1 time after that. Scientific medicine, before it was implemented and it came in, the people, they relied on what? They relied on herbal practitioners. But it says they seldom relied on healing for their entire support and charged little for their services. Hello? McFly, is anybody home? Why don't you make like a tree and go? It says most Americans consulted herbal practitioners, but these herbal practitioners seldom relied on healing for their entire support. Meaning it wasn't a job that they considered, I'm going to do this full time. No, if your son was sick, you're sick, your daughter's sick, you know I do this too. You know I have the understanding that I learned from my grandmother, that I learned from the old man in the town. He taught me this before he passed. I know how to do it. But other than that, I'm a blacksmith. You know what I do. Other than that, I'm a bartender. I'm a barber. I clean shoes. I run an inn. I'm a laborer. Other than that, right? But since I came over here, you know, this is when they play the game. They come over, they heal you, and oh, let me give you a little something. You say, no, I can't. And you say, no, please, take it. Oh, I can't. And then these are the games my grandmother used to play with her friends, you know. 10 minutes, she's sitting there, please, I gotta give you something. No, I can't. I would never. She's not leaving. Nobody's leaving till they find a way to stick it in there, and then you got to do this every time. Pride reasons. You know what I'm saying? No, I can't. They seldom relied on healing for their entire support and charged little for their services. Regular physicians were increasingly plying their art on a full-time basis and charging substantially higher fees, often supported by medical societies, publishing fee bills to place a floor under competing doctors' charges. The maldistribution of regular physicians and their higher fees were only two reasons why the regular profession was widely unpopular in the first half of the 19th century. Very much related to their social, economic, and geographic separation from the populace, the orthodox profession's clinical practice was greatly feared by much of the population. Not only, listen to this part right here. This is why I say I don't need a bunch of people in the room. What I'm doing right now, I can have 3 people here, and if only one of them walked away with the knowledge, I did my fucking job, right? So I don't even care about the numbers, because this ain't about that. This is about passing something on, and then that person passing it who they're going to pass it to. But check this out. Listen. Not only did medicine offer little hope for curing disease, but the heroic methods used by regular doctors were unpleasant and often lethal. We're talking about the 1800s. We're talking about the 1800s. I don't see what's different from between 1800s and now. Because they just released a biological weapon that they called a vaccine but did not operate as a vaccine. And actually, now they're admitting that it hurt way more people than it could have helped. Meanwhile, I had people on here reporting me to YouTube talking about, yo, he's talking against the vaccine. He's going to hurt people. Flag his channel. Idiots. Fucking idiots. Groupthink robots. Vegetables. They don't know how to think for themselves. A man in a white fucking jacket tells you to do something, you do it. Why'd you do it? Because he was in a white jacket. Everybody knows if somebody's in a white jacket and he tells you what to do, you do it. You don't know how to follow rules. No, I don't know how to just blindly follow, you jackass. I use my mind, my logic, my reason, my intuition. Crazy. Not only did medicine offer little hope for curing disease, but those heroic methods used by regular doctors were unpleasant and often lethal. The Lancet was the physician's indispensable tool for nearly every ailment. Benjamin Rush, the most prominent physician in America, from the Revolution through Jefferson's time, urged bleeding for yellow fever,
not only in cases where the pulse was full and quick, but where it was slow and tense. When bleeding was not recommended, and even when it was, calomel, chloride of mercury, halep, and other purgative was administered. The violent vomiting and purging that resulted were more detested than even the pus-filled blisters induced as another form of therapy. Well, it seems like that's an adverse effect. Now, what I would like you guys to think of is we're talking about the 1860s. Over a century later, here we are, still crazy adverse effects. You can't get one commercial. You got to think about it. We went from no radio, no none of that, just sitting around with somebody with a little guitar, possibly a washboard. I know many of you are not old enough to remember a fucking washboard and a spoon. You have no idea what I'm talking about. People clapping their feet. Stomping their feet, clapping their hands. Washboard and people singing. That was entertainment. That was actually entertainment. After a supper. So I'm talking about a time when there was no radio. We went from the radio to TVs, not just the TV. When the original TV was a big fucking deal, Jack. Shit was huge. And guess what? Chances was your family was only going to have one goddamn TV, and that shit was going to be in the living room. And guess what? When that shit was broke, the TV was so big they didn't even throw it out. TV was so big they just put another TV on top of that TV. That's how big the TV was. My point is this. Now you walk into a house, there's a fucking TV in every room. God forbid the bathroom might have a TV. People walking around just looking at TV in their hand. But obviously one thing has not changed from that what? Scientific medicine, right? Because I said it right here. Over 100 years later, the one thing that has not changed is what? Scientific medicine's adverse effects. You can't watch one commercial about this scientific medicine without 40, 30 freaking adverse effects. He said, that's how I wash my clothes. You don't know about that washboard. I had a washboard in my house, for real. I really had a washboard in my house. And we had a washboard at church that we used to play. You wrap up a hanger, right? You bend up a hanger, and you get the fucking washboards, Jack. That's old school. But we're not talking about that. Give me a second. I'm going to get back into the aliens in a second. Right now, we just talk about this for a second. When bleeding was not recommended, they used chloride and all. I said all of that, right? Against the distasteful. So we talked about the blisters. Against this distasteful and frequently disastrous treatment by regular physicians, the empirical herbalists' maltreatments were pleasanter and at the very least did not interfere with natural rates of recovery. What they're saying right there is it didn't cost a lot for a guy that knew which herbs would reduce fever or eliminate a rash to go out and just pull those flowers, this, that, and the third, put them on the person, and then it didn't cost. He didn't have to charge you a lot for that. That was people's way of doing things before these. I don't want to just call them capitalists, because many people believe in capitalism, but not their type of capitalism. Their type of capitalism is not the generic term that you learn in school. These are evil madmen that they don't want anyone else to come up. But don't worry about that. Let's get back into this. Their mild emetics and stimulants seem closer to nature than the regular profuse bloodletting and harsh purges. So basically the book is saying these expensive scientific medicine people always had these grand ideas and them shits never worked. They wanted to drain you of your blood and do all of these real medieval type science projects on you. Kind of like when Dr. Fauci was experimenting on black boys with HIV and then he just buried them in a fucking grave upstate New York. But I digress. We'll get into that later. Still experiencing competition from the empirical grounded herbalists, regular physicians resorted to ever larger doses of their therapies through the first half of the 19th century, believing that any desired change in a patient's gross symptoms was to the good and seeking to distinguish their art from lay practice. Regular doctors bled their patients more profusely and doubled and tripled their doses of chloride, doubled and tripled their dose of chloride and halop. The profession's heroic therapy became the focus of increasingly bitter and widespread attacks. Thomas Jefferson called them an inexperienced and presumptuous band of medical tyros let loose upon the world. By the middle of the century, cholera victims were given an even chance of being done in by the disease or the doctor. The profession's fearsome and futile methods reduced public confidence in regular doctors to an all-time low. Leading local and regional members of the profession tried many methods of increasing public confidence. I'm going to read that again. Leading local and regional members of the medical profession tried many methods of increasing public confidence in doctors and reducing competition. So right now, you got to get the feeling that they're trying to really create a medical professional. But their biggest problem is these herbalists that people would rather go to rather than these scientific medical people, because it doesn't seem that their shit is working. And then we're talking 1850s, 1860s. At various times during the 19th century, they sought licensing laws, formed new medical sects, started medical schools and issued diplomas, organized state and national medical societies, demanded medical school reforms, and adopted codes of ethics, all with little or no improvement in the technical effectiveness, credibility with the public, or their own status and fortunes, right? So they basically, what this is saying is they tried some PR stunts and they're trying marketing, and obviously they're going to go to the laws after this. That's the best way to start eliminating shit, right? Raise money, give it to some politicians, have them write the laws that's going to basically prohibit anybody from using fucking flowers that has been out there all this time, people have been using, and then they're gonna discredit these people, right? Because they didn't go to the school. We gotta use our fucking heads, right? You ever meet a jackass that says, "Oh, so you don't believe in vaccines? You don't believe in vaccines? Shut the fuck up, bro. Are all vaccines the same? Yeah, there might have been some natural vaccinations throughout the centuries, but not all of them were presented maliciously, deceptively, like we're seeing now. So if you can't see the malicious and the deceptiveness within the people behind these products, then you're the jackass. Don't try to make it seem like I'm just uneducated and I'm against vaccines. Use your fucking noodle. This scientific medicine wasn't always there, but we don't have the full history of it. They don't teach us anything. They teach us the basic minimum, and then they cram our head with a bunch of white noise. Useless information. Jokes, violent videos, sexual arousal videos. Anything about the true history, and we're going to get there after this. Because I'm going to get back to the aliens, right? Because I don't believe that Hitler was talking about his master race having anything to do with color. I do believe he was talking about an ancient race of humanoid people that was on this planet. Were they the master? Well, then that's a different topic, because if he's talking about the Lyran Chaldeans, which, by the way, open your Bible, because open up Job, you fucking ignoramuses. In case you think I'm talking crazy right now and you're a Christian, you be like, I don't believe in that and I believe in God. I need you to open up Job, and in that book they're talking about Pleiadians and the people from the Orion galaxies and all of this. Yeah, you don't read your Bible, do you? Don't be so fast to call me crazy. Hold on, where do we go? We went from there. Competition. Okay. Here we go. The professional, fearsome, feudal, reduced to public confidence a little bet. Leading local and regional members of the profession have tried many methods. We just read that. Okay, here we go. Licensing. Despite the antipathy of much of the populace, regular doctors at the end of the 18th century persuaded fellow gentlemen in the state legislatures to pass medical licensing laws to restrict or prohibit practice by herbal healers. Hit the like button. I'm giving you history right now. Actual history. This shit really happened. They don't want me to talk about it, so it's not like you're going to hear it from anywhere else. And everybody else is too much worried about growing their YouTube channel to give you any real game. So where else you going to get people to have these type of conversations? See, that's why you're coming over here. It's not too many places you can have certain conversations. You just want to know that you're not going out of your goddamn mind. Does anybody care about intellect anymore? What happened to the intellectuals? I told you this was coming, and just like clockwork, here we are. Despite the antipathy of much of the populace, regular doctors at the end of the 19th century persuaded fellow gentlemen in the state legislature to pass medical licensing laws to restrict or prohibit practice of herbal healers. Licensure bestowed exclusively on regular physicians the right to sue for fees. The legally sanctioned economic privilege did not provide the regular profession with an economic monopoly, but it did set them apart from and above the lay healers and most other Americans. In addition to the public's lack of confidence in regular physicians' clinical methods, populists in the Jacksonian era articulated their opposition to any form of class privilege. By 1850, medical licensing laws were repealed. Jesus Christ. Medical licensing laws was repealed in nearly every state through the efforts of the popular health movement. Thank God for the popular health movement. So, what we can learn is history is repeating itself. There were people in the 1850s. So, in the 1800s, apparently, this scientific medicine, which really wasn't that much fucking science, it was blood. The biggest scientific thing they had was bloodletting, cutting you and leaking your blood all over the fucking place, saying there's a method to it. Was it a method? Well, from this book, people were saying this shit was horrible, it didn't work, and nobody believed in it, and they'd rather go to their traditional form of therapy, which were the herbalists. Then, just so there was balance, a group called the Popular Health Movement. You guys write that down, look them up. Popular Health Movement. They fought the medical establishment back then, and they got some motion. They were able to get the licensing laws repealed in every state. A loose populist movement of lay healers. This was the Popular Health Movement. There was just a bunch of herbalists, artisans, farmers, and working people who fought to remove the legal sanctions that protected the privileged position of physicians. Now, let's just take a sidebar right now. Look where we're at right now. Them people nearly killed us telling us some bullshit. Telling you mask was good. Bullshit mask, right? It didn't matter. That's how you know it was bullshit. They didn't care what you put over your face. People had t-shirts on. It was all type of bullshit going on. As long as you covered your face to reduce the oxygen to the brain, that's the only thing that the top people at the very top cared about. Not the people that was given the derivative and the instructions to pass on to other people. They thought they was doing the right thing by listening to their master. And guess what? The law said. And the government said. So you listening to the man in the white coat again, are you? Stanley Milgram experiment, is it not? Write that down. Stanley Milgram experiment. Write that down. If you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, write down Stanley Milgram experiment. This is when they experimented to put some random fucking person in a white coat. And he told somebody else, shock that person. And the person shocked him. And he said, I don't know if I should keep going because the person, shock him. Shock him. And the person just kept on shocking him. You asked him, why do you do it? The guy in the white coat told me to shock him. Word. Word. These people told you to tell your kids to put a mask on for 8 fucking hours a day. While their brains were still forming. They were still forming and growing into little people. Knowing goddamn well they couldn't get the oxygen that was needed. So these people are trying to induce brain damage on us. I'm not overreacting. Who would do that? I'm going to tell you who would do that. Someone who is not of the same humanoid species as you. You take it for granted, oh, we all the same down here. You believe whatever biblical stories they gave you. I remind you harshly, if you're of one of the 3 religions, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Muslim, the stories are taken from somewhere else. That shit was put together. Sorry. That shit is heavily influenced by other civilizations that they don't want you to know about. And guess what? Those other civilizations, there's a lot of stories about intergalactic shit going on. I got a theory. It was like, hey, that's enough of all of that. We don't need to know all of that. If we're going to be down here, we need to control these people, Jack, and simplify the story. Nonetheless, history is washed. And they keep changing the history. So, let us not go back 3,000 years, 10,000 years. We don't need to tonight. We could go back 100 years and learn something. Just 100. So, you had the people in the 1850s fighting against the new scientific medicine, right? And saying, Funguli, haram. Did we fight like we should have? I think everybody should have just said no to the fucking everything. And then they would have had to stop. But when some people said, fuck it, yo, I gotta pay the rent, so I'm gonna get the jab. And then you were fucking dead 5 years later. How'd that work out? Respectfully, how'd it work out? Now you want to tell me all your ailments that you got. Yeah, because you should have told them to go fuck themselves. We got to stand together. When they know they could divide us. Medical sex in medical schools. The humiliated profession was badly divided. Many physicians, critical and heroic medicine, were attracted to the pleasanter new professional sex, such as homeopathy and eclecticism, that were growing in popularity. These sects built their material medica around herbal drugs or some distinctive technology or procedure, each adding elements that enable them to claim the necessity of extended study in their field. I'm almost done. Don't nobody go nowhere. I just want to get a little bit further. Maybe this might be the last page. I think that's this page and the next. Homeopathy, as formulated by its founder Samuel, how do you say this word? Samuel Hahnemann? Somebody write this down. Samuel, last name Hahnemann, a German physician, was based on the widely accepted medical view that the symptoms of a disease constitute the disease itself, and a corollary, I don't know what that word means, that eliminating the symptoms constitutes a cure. Hahnemann found that some drugs produce the same symptoms, in a healthy person, that causes the illness, that they eliminated in a sick person whom they cured. For example, he found that Sinoka bark at the time used to relieve the symptoms of malaria produced malarial symptoms in a healthy person. From these observations, he developed what he called the law of stimuli. It's some fancy medical term, right? Or like cures like. Like cures like. That's what he's saying. Like cures like. Hahnemann also maintained that diluting the dosage of a drug down to 1/10 of a of 1/1,000,000th of its original strength, increased the drug's potency. So basically, it sounds like he's on some Yakub, the big head scientist bullshit. He's just out here trying shit right now, right? He doesn't know. Anyway, competition between the sects and the lack of decisive public support for any one of them left none of the sects in a position to establish control through licensing. The Orthodox profession and the other sects turned to medical education and degrees as a method of recruiting and certifying new physicians in their ranks, and uplifting the professional medical schools proliferated throughout the country, and some 400 were founded between 1800s and the 1900s. All right. So the important part right there we need to know is between 1800 and 1900, 400 medical schools were created. Local physicians organized schools to supplement their practices with lecture fees paid by medical students and through their graduates to fatten their incomes with increased consultations. Listen, this is the part I want you to start listening to. And we can kind of see where all of this shit started. Big Pharma and all of that. We have to understand the beginnings of the mindset and how this shit got way out of control. Because we're living in one big Ponzi scheme right now where nothing is real. Everyone's lying. Even the guy in the white coat, he's fucking lying. Right? Because he was promised by a fucking snake oil salesman a half an hour before you get there that he would get a residual income off of whatever he gets you to actually commit yourself to. So if you go in and then he's able to get you a new steroid shot or some fucking vaccine for some old shit that has adverse effects, he gets paid for that. These are the facts. I'm not lying to you. Local physicians organized schools to supplement their practices with lecture fees paid by medical students and through their graduates to fatten their incomes with increased consultations. At a time when physicians considered $1,000 to $2,000 a year a good income, the average part-time medical school faculty member earned more than $5,000 annually from student fees in private practice, while more enterprising and popular colleagues earned at least $10,000. Like hundreds of general colleges started before the Civil War by rival Protestant sects and political groups, many medical schools were started by rival medical sects to improve their competitive position vice other sects. The Orthodox profession controlled by far the largest numbers of schools. The Orthodox profession controlled by far the largest number of schools. The proliferation of medical schools in the 1800s assured the dominance of diploma-carrying regular doctors over herbal healers and physicians of other sects. By 1860, regular physicians outnumbered their sectarian doctors 10 to 1. All right, now they're growing, which is what they wanted, right? Let me finish this because we're coming to the end. The inexpensive and widely dispersed medical colleges encouraged large numbers of young men and some women to attempt careers in medicine. Graduates, many of them from yeomen, farming and working class families, filled the cities, towns, and countrysides of America. Elite regular physicians resented the competition within the dominant sect, but they saved their most venomous denunciations for competing sects. The sectarian doctor was the greatest foe to the medical profession. He's talking about the herbalists. Argued the dean of Tulane University Medical Department. This is why he said that. Because he was an obstacle to the financial success of the respectable medical practitioner. It was all about money. It was all about money the whole time. Now there's another verse in there. I'm reading right now, the Rockefeller Medicine Men. I just wanted you to have that history. There's too much history in that book for me to keep on going on and on. And you know the funny thing is, people, they don't really like knowledge because it's like boring. Because our minds we're chemically imbalanced and we don't even know it. We're always chasing a high. We're always chasing some type of sugar, right? Physical sugar, mental sugar. It always has to just make us feel this euphoric state. And that's not how competent people were created. There was a balance. And it was probably less of a balance. Everything wasn't euphoric at all. They say hard times make people. Well, it's like no one wants to go through jack shit. Let alone, like, forget going through shit. No one wants to even sit in silence. Everything has to make you laugh. I've totally come to terms with being a critical thinker and understanding the amount of people that are just not gonna be that vain, that and you respect it. Now, I'm going to end this video by going back to what I started with. And I'm going to do a whole video on it. So don't worry about it. The videos will be members only. But I'm going to do a detailed video on what I believe Hitler was talking about. These people his scientists were light years ahead. If they weren't light years ahead, we would not have brought them over here to the United States to work on a lot of the mind control programs that we still work on to this day. Now, I understand that there is a rumor that Hitler got this book called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and he might have flipped out. I do believe this happened, but I wasn't there, so I can't tell you for sure what happened. What I do know is that he did not seem to really care for who we call, or who you call, the Jews. He didn't seem like he cared about these people. And him and his constituents were always going on about the master race. It's kind of funny because it don't seem like he was part of the master race as far as the blonde hair, blue eyed. So you say, why would you push that if you had black hair and black eyes? Like, were you crazy? But I don't think he wasn't talking about a race class system as far as just your skin color. This is why eugenics was implied so much in his rhetoric, because it was way deeper than that. They were actually talking about, which I don't think they knew totally, because they didn't have the exact history, because it's not like you could find this history. You could have found this just history anywhere. The thing is, we've entered the Aquarius age, and as prophesied, there's an abundance of information. Now, abundance of information could be good and bad, because it's kind of bad because there's so much information that it clouds, what's really out there, right? So people are able to sneak in false information. This is like a lot of going on. And that could be a tactic to actually
destabilize things even more, right? To stop you dead in your track because you think you learning something, but they're putting so much information out there that it's like it's really too much. But what he did, and what his right-hand man, Alfred Rosenberg, did understand, is that there was an ancient history of something called the Atlanteans. And he was well aware that these so-called Atlanteans were said to be not of this earth. They were aware of this. So when he talks about the master race, he's actually talking about who he considered to be on this planet first, which was the Lyran and the Pleiadians. However, suppose you are not Caucasoid at all, and you are of another racial group, the Negroid. Would you too be a part of this Lyran Pleiadian category? Chances are not. And this is where we get a man by the name of Master Wallace Farad, who takes a trip. I always say to this planet, because I mean to the continent. Me personally, I don't think Master Farad was from this continent, but who's to say? But anyway, Master Farad get over here. He meets a guy by the name of Elijah Poole, and he gives him some game. He gives him some knowledge. He gives him some information. And he lets Elijah Poole know, you guys was in fact the first race on this planet. Oh, well, now we got something going on, don't we? We got two different people saying something. But how did it get reduced to skin color? I believe it got reduced to skin color because I love this little story, and I'm going to end in about 10 minutes. I'm going to end this, and when I get home, I'm actually going to do the full video on this, put it together real nicely for everybody that really wants to get a little bit more into this conversation. But I believe that this whole talk about races and master races got pigeonholed into down to skin color because it would throw off the topic, the bigger conversation. And you know, it's real funny how whenever you talk about religious talks, especially the Bible, right, they act like this is history. And a lot of it is fucking freestyling in that fucking book. But when they talk about other things, they say mythology. In mythology. So I'm like, wait a minute. Why when it comes to the Bible, it's not mythology? But then when I'm talking about something like an older civilization that you did not want me to know about anyway, right? Or some of these other gods that these cultures was talking about. Why you keep saying mythology? How do I know Odin wasn't fucking real? Furthermore, I got to thinking, they keep on acting like all these gods were just interchangeable and it would be the same god, but every culture would change his name. Suppose that was not the case. Because let me tell you something. We are not all the same humanoid species down here. We do not originate from the same humanoid species. I don't care what they tell you. I'm only speaking from my intuition right now, so don't. But I'm pretty confident. So, I understand when these people say, yo, I'm from the master race. He really thinks he's from the Pleiadian and Lyran people, and he thinks they were here first. However, there's another group. There's several different groups. But I'm just saying there may be somebody else from another group, let's just say the Anunnaki, who say, actually, we was here first. We are the original man. Now, they give you this knowledge in TV shows, but they never want you to they don't really want you to take it serious. So they're going to give you these stories in the Superman, right? And what is his name? His name is Kal, which is crazy. Actually threw some Canaanite culture on that thing, gave him the L name, which is Lord. Kal, he's a god. They do shit like this all the time. Give it to you in bits, but they don't want you to really, they always want you to think it's mythology. They always want you to think this is just fictional. Well, I would like you to just to think with your noodle for a second. These are the same people who keep changing around the history, adding new words, taking out words, changing the name of continents changing the name of continents on maps. Before you just blindly follow what they say, just always remember that shit. Now, as I end the video, I want to talk about some of the, because really I'm just giving you food for thought tonight. The Germans, they spoke about the Nordics, which was tied to the Atlanteans, which is tied to the Lyrans, which is tied to the Pleiadians. The conversations we're not having is about all of that, plus the Syrians, the Orions, the Andromedans, the Martians. Now, I understand this is a far out conversation because, like someone said, oh, he's over there talking about outer space stuff. These people have small scale conversations, and I can't be offended by somebody who can't comprehend history, right? I'm not talking about nothing but history. But it's so far long ago history, it doesn't compute in their head, right? So it's kind of like when I go back and forth with you, when obviously this conversation I'm having is not new. It's an old conversation. Hold on 1 second. 5 more minutes. Give me 5 more minutes. I'm going to let you go. Promise. Job 9:9. Job 9:9. Before we about to go. Hold on. Job 9:9. Job, this is for the people who claim to have religion. You ever met a fake you got all these people, these fake, these street people, but they act like they're religious and shit. I don't see the sense in that. Right? These are some of the filthiest people on this planet. They don't really abide by no religious laws, but then they always acting like they giving thanks to Allah, and they know how to quote shit and wear certain shit, little phrases. But these are the most vile people on the planet, right? They'll have sex with any fucking thing, any hole. These are the type of ignoramuses that got the nerve to utter the fact that I'm over here talking about things in outer space. What the fuck do you know? You don't know shit about shit. And you're a fraud. Where's my reading glasses? Fuckers listening to a grown man still bragging about doing juvenile shit. Then Job answered and said, I know it is so of a truth, but how should man be just with God? If he will contend with him, he cannot answer him one of 1,000. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength, who have hardened himself against him, and have prospered, which removeth the mountains, and they know not, which overturneth them in their anger, which shaketh the earth out of her place, and the pillars thereof tremble, which commandeth the sun, and is riseth not, and sealeth up the stars, which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea, which maketh Arcturus and Orion and the Pleiades and the chambers of the south, which doeth great things past finding out, the wonders without number. It's funny when you read this book, and these guys are going on and on about a lot of different things in this. This book is a wild piece of... This book is wild, Jack. But the things we skip over. So you got Job 9:9, you got Job 38. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loose Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons and lead out the bear with his cubs? And a lot of this is speaking in code. I think there's way more, as I end in my last 2 minutes, I think there's way more evidence that these ancient people knew about star people and the different races from the star. I don't know how we got here on this planet. This planet has been here for minimum billions of years. We know this just by the fact that the formation of gold on this planet. So why you would subjugate yourself to believe one story that people told? It's like a lot of stories out there. But as I'm looking at and I'm doing the history to these stories, right? Even the Dravidian people, the Indian people, who are linked to, actually, you got to break up. That's a whole different story I'm going to break up when I do my other video. Because if you break up the northern people of India, they would be more related to the Lyran and the Pleiadian people. But then you got the Dravidians, who they may belong to another category. Now, when I do the video, I'm going to get in depth into the Egyptians, right? What category was the Egyptians? Well, obviously there's some Atlantean influence there. But does that mean they were Lyran or Pleiadian? No. What we're probably looking at is once Atlantis actually sunk, those people had to go somewhere. Did they mingle amongst a people that wasn't their own, but they brought something to the table? I believe so. And the same thing for the Greeks. Anyway, I really did this video so I wanted food for thought for you to something to think about, because I think we've been having the wrong conversations, but it's definitely time to start having a conversation about cosmic races or star races. Because the cat's out the bag, and if the cat isn't out the bag, because I'm usually way ahead of the punch, like way ahead of my time with shit. So I'm always having a conversation before the conversation even fucking starts. And it's not like this conversation hasn't been happening, but I'm talking about collectively, like once it gets commercialized and everybody starts running around talking about what fucking Starseed they are part of and all that. You have these groups of people, but I think this conversation is going to be larger now. Then I think we can see the whole. Here's why the conversation I think is necessary. Because right now we're fighting over trivial things, right? We're not understanding, and we really think that it's the same reason people wear gold and they value gold. Not that you think the color of gold is what makes gold valuable. No. There was something that happened on this planet that deemed gold valuable way before now, right? And even when you ask anybody, why is gold so valuable? They said because it's scarce, so that can't be true. And I know it's not true. Gold was valuable because this is where I believe Zachariah Sitchin. There were people from a different planet mining this planet for gold, and then they abruptly left and left everything down here, including the people that was fucking mining for gold. When they did that, the people still thought there was value in mining for gold, which made it valuable, but they didn't really know what to do with this shit, because the original people that was mining for gold was using it for something else. For technology and protection on their planet and science. They couldn't do that down here with the gold. But they still thought it has to be valuable because we was digging for it. So if you find any gold is valuable, it means something. And after centuries of not really doing shit with the gold scientifically, it kind of just develops within the culture, it develops as it being valuable. That's what I believe happened with gold. Because we do talk about its technical attributes, but there's actually other minerals down here that can do what gold does and better. But it depends why you would have needed gold in the first place. Did you know? Did these beings need to reflect something? Did they need to reflect some type of radiation? Well, then that's where gold was going to be excellent. And if you don't remember, fucking Bill Gates tried to block out the sun, but he tried to do it in a way where you was very deceptive. So what he did was he diced up these reflective particles, which is not a new. They said that the Anunnaki tried this on their planet eons ago. Anyway, I'm sure he's under the directive of some real reptilian group that's telling him do this, do that. Nonetheless, he chopped up and diced these reflective particles and released them into the air. And at first glance, it's not, anything to write home about. But when you actually think about it, it is reducing the energy of the sun that's in direct contact with you. But again, if you don't even understand your own anatomy and the science and how the sun would affect you, or lack of the sun affecting you, even if it's a microscopic measurement, there's so many other variables that are attacking you, right? In small amounts that eventually crazy, because if you really think about it, it's actually rewriting your DNA, because you're passing on this information about yourself. And this weaker version of you, as you have kids, is being passed on. Crazy. What's crazy is this is being done on purpose. To a specific people, not just to black people, right? Because if we want to reduce ourselves down to colors, we could do that. But I do think it's bigger than that. I'm just letting you know. I think these are just some of the characteristics from our ancestors, from our whatever star galaxy we were originally from. And not everyone's from a star galaxy. Some of us were actually made, right? And then that there is a different conversation. Because according to the, what's it called? Trying to get it in my head. Hold on. The actual name of the treaty is not coming in my head. And I know I said I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get the actual treaty. It begins with an H. But according to the treaty that was created with the Galactic Federation, first of all, the humans, there was more than once that the humanoids like us were created, right? So we read in Genesis that the Elohim, the council of gods, said, let us make man in our own image. But again, whenever you read in this book, understand that whoever the Hebrews claimed to be, they was basically plagiarizing and taking from other stories and shit like that, as they was under captivity of the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the Persians. So they was hearing different stories, and then they was putting these shit together. And then when they got freed by the Persians, I think they just went crazy. And they wrote down a bunch of shit they done heard. But it's okay. But understand, there is a story in here about making human beings in the first chapter. I mean, you don't even got to go far. It's chapter 1, verse 26. It says in God, but in the Hebrew Bible, it said Elohim. And we know that Elohim is a plural words, which would explain it saying in the very next sentence, let us make man in our image after our likeness and let them have dominion. Blase, blase, blah, right? The point is, not only did they repeat what they heard there, but they heard it from older civilizations like the Sumerians, right? So the reason I'm saying this is because I'm saying shit that you obviously could judge and be like, oh, this nigga's crazy. He's talking about fucking people making human beings and shit. Then either you are an atheist and you don't believe in any gods, because all the three main religions, which is okay if you're atheist. I'm cool. If you like it, I love it. You understand? I don't believe in the same God you believe in anyway. If you believe in Yahweh, Yahweh is a bullshit God. That's number 18 and number 1 at the same time. Matter of fact, it's 1 through 18. Hands down. But that story of making human beings is also in Enki and Ninhursag, or Ninhursag and Enki, the epic of Ninhursag and Enki. I think it's also in the epic of Adrahesis. It's in a couple of epics. You could read it yourself. So I don't want you to think because I'm here talking with confidence about something that I believe that I'm the crazy one. Because you can't point me out to be crazy and then not point your pastor or your imam or your rabbi out. You got to point them out for being crazy too, because they believe in the same shit I believe in. I just go a little bit further than they go. That's all it is. Hadrona Treaty. I think that's the name of the treaty. Anyway, there was another treaty where the reptilians, the Atlanteans, which are Lyrians and Pleiadians, and the Maldekians, they all got together and said they're gonna make a neutral being on this planet, and then they will have dominion over everything. And this is where the story comes in, where it says let them have dominion over This is an old story, right? But they kind of branded this shit into this. So when you reading it from this, that shit got you in another box, right? You come outside of that box and you start to research some of the other cultures in history, and you like, holy smoke. That's when you realize this shit was plagiarized, really, right? Until you do that, you got to do it for yourself, though. So you may be scared to do that because you might lose your religion. You be out here on some, oh, life is bigger. It's bigger than you, and you are not me. Huh? You be out here on some REM shit, losing your religion. I thought that I heard you laughing. Question tonight. Here's the homework. What starseed are you affiliated with? What starseed? Now, even if you don't believe a damn thing I'm saying tonight, I still want you to do the homework. What starseed are you associated with? Which one of you do you think you're drawn to the most? Now, I'm going to let you go because I put a lot out there and it wasn't exactly in order. But it was a lot for you to think about, right? Now, what you might happen in the next 7 days is a whole bunch of stuff. You just start to see shit. You just start to see the writing on the wall. Right after this conversation, you're like, yo, wait a minute. He just said this, that, and the third now. Oh, shit. And then the public start coming. Don't be surprised if this happens. No one's freely going to want to give you the formula. If you know the formula, they can't control you. If they can't control you, they can't get no money off you. If you know the formula, you're going to tell somebody else. So therefore, they know. Then next thing you know, the people who's living unproductively without doing anything but living a good life, they don't have workers anymore. Because people are using their brain. So they're not going to want to give you the knowledge. No one's just want to give you the knowledge. I'm just telling you that. So don't be so quick to think, I'm the crazy one. Chances are I'm not the crazy one. Just the only one with the decency to let you know and put you on game. Because everybody else that does know, they're not going to give that shit to you. They call it giving pearls to swine. So that's it for tonight. Look out for my video. I'm probably going to make it into a series. I think I'm going to make it into a series. Here's my last words I'll say. I came on the internet and I did a 12-part series about the history of the Ashkenazi Jew. Wasn't that in 2019? That's how I came on the internet. I did a 12-part series. And I called it the Synagogue of Satan. And then 5 years later, everybody's talking about Zionists and Jews. 5 years later, I had already did a 12-part fucking series on the Khazars, the whole history of the Balfour Declaration, the whole thing. So a lot of my conversation again is way ahead of its time.
which means you're on time and you're tapped in right now, is what I'm saying. You'll see. You'll see in 5 years if the world don't catch up to us and everyone's trying to figure out what actual star seed they actually belong to. And you will remember, like, nobody was really talking about that shit outwardly like that. No, nobody wasn't. They was having these sidebar fucking conversations in these small ass groups. But I think it's high time we start to, not so that they can weaponize it, so that we can actually, it's okay to find your tribe. I think the problem is that people do, you got radicals and extremists. And I think anybody claiming to be part of the Atlantean, Aryan race of people just so that they can take over, well, that's not a good way to look at shit either. Let's just keep it real. I do think there was I don't know if you guys were the master fucking race. Let's keep it real though. Pleiadians come from Lyrans. Pleiadians are just an offshoot of Lyran, a Lyran community that settled in the Pleiades because of the reptilian war. But later, let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy. Let's slow down. Maybe Sunday. Maybe Sunday. I'll go through the whole war again. I've done this already, but we'll do it again. All right? You guys have a good night. I think tomorrow's Saturday. I'm praying one of you guys really tap into the Akashic records and bring back some news to me. You understand? Tap into. Shout out to Pretty Divine in Kush. I was out in San Francisco. Got up with them. I'm gonna put the pictures up and shit. Had some great conversations with Pretty Divine and Kush. Was able to sit down with them and their family. Shout out to them. It says the Bible tells you to submit to the people that put you in slavery. That is wild and crazy. But again, when you look at these priesthood, right? And I'm taking what I'm about to say, never mind the local priesthood. I don't care what priesthood, Christian, Muslim, Judaism, right? Yeah, obviously most of the priests that's there now, they believe what they actually are telling you. Otherwise, I don't think they would be imams and pastors and everything like that. They're still human beings. So if they do something, you know what I'm saying, you have to know that they're still human beings, and you know they're not perfect. However, I'm just one to believe that religion started to monopolize the thought process of people and control them, right? So therefore we was given a story, not that it was the real or fake story. I mean, it's a lot of fucking stuff in here, right? That actually happened. It's just some of the shit is turned around. Let's take Moses, right? Why does Sargon and Moses have the same story? Yet, Sargon is older than Moses. Even if Moses is fucking made up, right? It doesn't matter, because Sargon is older than even the existence of the Hebrews.
Now, did you even know about a fucking Sargon to begin with? And did you know that he has the same story as Moses? Now, what does your logic tell you? If he's older than Moses and him and Moses got the same fucking story, why do I have to tell you anything? What does your logic tell you? Well, you'll figure it out. I'm not here to tell you shit. If you want to play games and act like you don't know what that means, then play games. Play with yourself till you come to a climax. If you want to act like you know, then you know what it means. Right? Anyway, Beyond You TV on the Roku TV and on your app. You can go download it right now. Beyond You TV. Download it on your Apple phone or your Android. That being said, I got shit to do. Holla at y'all later. Peace out.